All right, thanks for joining us this afternoon on your lovely program, Our Guest. Our Guest is a personality program where we spice up your day. Of course, when you look at it, having guests who have been able to contribute towards the development of the state, they've been able to make name. And that is why today we are celebrating Honorable Kayode Babade. Honorable Babade happens to be one-time former majority leader of the Ekiti State House of Assembly. He had the opportunity occupying various positions in Ekiti State. But when the time comes, he will see all this himself. And of course, where we ask him how life has treated him, where he has been able to meet challenges about life. Don't forget, all will not be rosy for a man being created by God, as we are born to have our challenges, difficulties in life, even when we enjoy some other part of our lifestyle. Honorable Kayode Babade is our guest this moment, and I want to believe and I want to trust that you enjoy every bit of the program. My name is Oluwasola Kende, your anchor. Honorable Babade, you are welcome.
Thank you, Kende, and thank you, viewers at home.
Yes, let's hear from you. Life, really. How you were born, where you were born, where you spent your childhood, and of course, your contemporaries in the world. Let's hear from you, Honorable.
Thank you very much. Well, I was born in the year 1957, October 6. In some few months, I will be 68 years old. I was born and bred, grew up at Ikere, Ekiti. I attended my elementary school at Ikere, St. Joseph Catholic Primary School, Okepati, Ikere, Ekiti. I equally attended Annunciation Catholic Secondary School, which Annunciation School, Ikere, Ekiti too. And then had a stint at Amoyi Grammar School for 1 year. And so I have been around Ekiti for so long. After my secondary education, I worked briefly in the Ondo State Civil Service, in the Ministry of Agriculture, as a produce inspector in Ondo Town between 1976 and 1978. We were one of the first set of produce inspectors that were recruited when Ondo State was created in 1976. And so I had 2 years experience as a produce inspector, and then went for further studies at the Federal Polytechnic. Then at Akure, we were one of the pioneering students there too. The first set of students to be admitted into the Federal Polytechnic, Akure, but later moved to Ado Ekiti, where it is today, when FUTA was brought to Akure. After that, regarding my education, I actually attended the University of Ibadan for master's degree program, master's in personnel management and industrial relations. And so these are my academic backgrounds.
Thank you, Honorable Babade. Let's look at it. Like I've said, you've occupied various positions, but one that I should be able to say one or two things about is your position, occupying a position as a former majority leader of the Ekiti State House of Assembly. You had your experience then, but I know you tell us some other position you've occupied before now.
Yeah, thank you very much. I came into politics having worked in 3 different places. I initially started work at Federal University of Technology, Akure, in 1983 till 1989. I left FUTA to go and work in a bank in Lagos, Abacus Merchant Bank, from 1989 to 1991. Then thereafter, I set up my own private company. But the going was rough and tough. I had to quickly go and take a lecturing job at the then Ondo State Polytechnic, which is now Rufus Giwa Polytechnic, Owo, to be able to stabilize my economy and feed my family. Because starting business was tough, it was rough. And so, having lectured at Rufus Giwa Polytechnic Owo for 10 years, I retired voluntarily to join politics. I contested election in year 2002 or 2003. The primaries was 2002 December, but the main election was May 5, 2003, into the Ekiti State House of Assembly. And by the grace of God, I won. And was sworn in as a member of the State House of Assembly, second assembly, in June, first week of June. I can't remember the date again now, in 2003. And, you know, with the House of Assembly, there are a lot of politicking there, but I became majority leader of the House in 2004. And the leader of government business, chairman of parliamentary caucus. These were my roles in the House of Assembly when I was majority leader of the House.
Yes, Honorable Babadi.
I left the House as Assembly in 2007. But if you recall, there was turbulence in Ekiti politics at that time that led to the removal of 2 deputy governors and a governor. And a state of emergency was declared. And the sole administrator, General Oluri, was appointed to administer the state for some months. But in, I think either April or May, June, April that year, we were asked to return to the House to complete our 4 years. And so we returned. And we left the House in June 2007. January 2008, Governor Oni was sworn in 2007, May 29. He was sworn in May 29, 2007, and he appointed me senior special assistant to the governor on rural development in January 2008. A position I held for some months and was eventually elected as State Secretary of the People's Democratic Party at that time. And so I had to vacate the seat of the SSA, Senior Special Assistant to the Governor, and then became State Secretary of the party in 2008. These I held on to till 2009 after the rerun. And so after the rerun, then Mr. Governor Segun appointed me Commissioner for Education, Ekiti State. And I had sway there for some time, for some reasons which were very local, on the University Tunedic of Education, Ekiti State, that was started at Ikere. There was a cabinet reshuffle, and that then was moved to Ministry of Lands. The Court of Appeal found us guilty of one thing or the other. The election tribunal at Ilorin, and that put paid to our government that time. Thereafter, having been secretary of the party for some time. The zonal publicity secretary of PDP was zoned to Ekiti, and the Southwest chairman. Governor Segun Oni went ahead and was elected Southwest chairman, and I too was elected Southwest publicity secretary of the PDP. While there, I was appointed by the then president, Goodluck Jonathan, as a member of the a member of the Governing Council, Federal College of Education, Technical, Akoka, Yaba, Lagos. I held sway there until President Buhari came on board and dissolved the council. At that time, too, I have moved from the PDP to the APC in 2014, and then we both did both the governorship and the presidential election in 2015 together. So this has been my political journey all along.
Babade, I think I have more interest you being a member of the Governing Council, Federal College of Education, Akoka, Lagos. Tell us a little about your experience. Somebody from Ekiti State joining a group of people who would decide for such Federal College of Education.
Yeah, thank you very much. One thing that is common, currently, during JKF2, 2019, I was appointed by Governor Fayemi as Chairman, Board for Technical and Vocational Education, Ekiti State. And the current governor, our own dear, indefatigable, dynamic, brilliant Bao, appointed me again to be chairman of Board for Technical and Vocational Education, which a position I'm holding up to today by the grace of God and at the pleasure of Mr. Governor. Now, one thing that is common from my experience at the Federal College of Education, Technical, and my current assignment is that people are running away from technical education. We had an enrollment problem when I was member of the Governing Council. It was a matter being brought to council from time to time, how to improve the enrollment of students into that school at that time. People were coming in for the library sciences, physics, chemistry, biology, and things like that. But when you now talk of woodwork, you talk of carpentry, you talk of automobile, you talk of mechanical, things like that. Very few students showed interest. And it's a place that is supposed to train teachers who will come and work in technical departments of secondary schools, GS3, those who are interested in technical drawing, those who are interested in woodwork and things like that. But you don't see them coming. And we are equally experiencing similar thing at the Board for Technical and Vocational Education. Since 2019, I joined. In fact, it might interest you to note that in 2019, the total number of students in technical colleges in Ekiti, we had 5. We are below 500. But we appreciate the faithfulness of God and the support of the then governor, who gave us every support in terms of equipment and infrastructure, and then advocacy, that we were able to lift the enrollment from below 500 to about 3,000 by the time I was leaving in 2022. Not that alone, the number of technical schools moved from 5 to 6. So it has been an age-long problem that people are running from where the world is today. That is where the world is today. Skill acquisition, technical education. That is where the world is today. What you will learn and you will be able to put food on your own table
When we saw the Chinese.
You see all these Chinese on the road, they are products of technical colleges. You know, it's not which country will release its best to come and work in a developing nation.
So we have riffraffs in Nigeria who we call the Chinese working for us now.
A lot of our engineers are more knowledgeable than them because they are not really engineers. Most of them are products of technical colleges, but what we celebrate is their color. If you as a black engineer give an instruction to an artisan here, the artisan will be murmuring. But let a colored person just ask him question. What do you do there? You see the guy shaking. That is the problem we have. But with that, and my experience at the Federal College of Education Technical has equally helped me in administering technical education in Ekiti State in terms of areas of exposure to equipments, to recruitment of staff, recruitment of and enrollment of students, and the general administration of technical education. I went through this with other council members for 3 years when I was a member of the governing council. So it has given me insight into technical education, and so by the time I was appointed chairman of Ekiti State Board for Technical Education, I was already in a familiar terrain.
Maybe perhaps you look at it from this dimension. You were there in the Federal Polytechnic Akure, now in Ado Ekiti.
Yeah.
Before going back to the University of Ibadan for additional degree.
Yeah.
And maybe that gave you the exposure needed to build a technical school for the state where you were able to move the number of students from 500 to over 3,000. But how did you feel at your age going back to the university?
It's only a dead person who you continue to learn until you are dropped into your grave for a person who is wise. Now, well, you see, if you look at my background, you will discover I was a student in a polytechnic. I lectured in a polytechnic for 10 years at Owo. I lectured there. That's where I retired. I'm still a pensioner. I still received pensions last week. Now, with all this, having been a member of the Board of Studies of a polytechnic in my own faculty of business for 10 years, contributing to the development and growth of a polytechnic, and then having been at the peak of the governing council is the peak of any higher institution of learning that makes policy and makes sure things goes well. The director or the vice chancellor or whatever the name is called, provost, report to council. And so I've been able to rub minds with people and share experiences with them. And so it is really helping me in my present and immediate past assignment. And so I want to appreciate God for that. And so that is why there has been a serious improvement with the support of the two governors, that is Governor Fayemi and the current governor that I'm working with. It has given us a real improvement in the outlook of technical education in Ekiti State.
Let's look at your days during the primary school days or the secondary school, even at the higher institution. Can you tell us the experiences that you could describe as ugly or very interesting among your colleagues or your mates? Maybe perhaps you mentioned some of your colleagues while you were there in school.
Well, thank you very much. A lot of my colleagues are around all over the place. When I say colleagues, probably who are classmates or my senior by 1 year. We were all friends, moving around together. At the secondary school level, because people that I will be able to mention and people we know, Senator Arishi, who were in Annunciation Grammar School together. He was in year 2 when I was in 1. We were still together at the Kere last weekend. So, and that's a relationship of 1970 up till now. Prince Dayari, he was in year 2 when I was in year 1. We were even in the same, myself and Senator Arishi were in the same room was a schoolhouse, dormitory 6, were in the same room. You talk of people like KFG or Gushaki. These are all people that were in secondary school together. A lot of our seniors equally all over the place. And so, but when I was at the Federal Polytechnic, the present Alari of Ari, Oba Bolu Adebiyi, who were classmates, who were together, who were both living off campus and going to school every day from town, from Akure then, before the school was shifted to Ado-Ekiti finally. You know, a lot of them are still around by the grace of God, and some have gone to rest with the Lord. Well, each time, as Konikaluku, and so, life is full of ups and downs, and so there is one man at the Kenya, his name is Ayo Level. So, she Ayo Level, no, Ayo Level. So, we have had terrible moments. For example, when I left secondary school at Annunciation in 1974, I failed the school SAT. And so I had to move forward, beg my parents, let me go and repeat. It was youthful exuberance. It's not that I'm not brilliant.
Yes.
And they allowed me. I went to Amoye Grammar School in the same time. I did 1 year there and cleared all my papers. And so it was a very dark moment for me. And there are some of our classmates having failed that year who never went back to school again. But we took the decision, with my parents, let me go back to school. That I fell once doesn't mean I can't rise again. And I was able to rise. And today, the story is not the same.
But what will you tell the youth outside there who thought failing once, then there is no hope any longer?
No, that's why I'm saying that if you fail once, it doesn't mean you have failed permanently. If you fail, if you allow me to use this Yoruba proverb, when somebody bá ṣubú, á wò wájú, tágbàlagbà bá ṣubú, á wò ẹ̀yìn, á wò tó gbé ṣubú. So if you fail, the next thing you have to examine is, why did I fail? Because when I failed at Annunciation, a lot of us failed during that year. Why did I fail? I was able to know 2 reasons why I failed. One, the age was, we were young, we were doing senior all over the place, beating people around and exerting authority when we were supposed to be studying.
The big boys up there.
The big boys in the school. It's not that we don't really, it's not that we are not brilliant, but we are not concentrating enough. And then very qualified teachers were scarce in those days. We lacked teachers in some subjects. You can imagine a school SAT person was teaching us mathematics, who just left the school. So what knowledge does he carry more than us? And so a lot of us failed. But the situation is different. Today, you have excess teachers all over the place now. So, but more importantly, some people did very well. I mean, the best student in our class still had a grade 1 and became a professor of medicine before he went to the Lord to rest. That is Professor Antonio Oni. He went to UI too. So we lost concentration, and so we failed. But having realized that, we now want to repeat. People never knew I was in that school because I already have learnt my lesson in a very difficult way. So my appeal to the youth is that even if you fail once, twice, it doesn't mean that's the end of your life. All you have to do is examine why you failed and then make amends and then move forward.
Because of our time, let's look at politics.
Yes.
You are vast, you experience. You were a majority leader even when we had, would I call it presently, the toughest House of Assembly of them, because looking at the House of Assembly then, I've not been able to really compare your period with any other house where it was a little bit tough and difficult. Politics of today, even while you were a majority leader. What do you have to say about this, sir?
Yeah, thank you very much. It doesn't mean that at our time it was the ideal. It's not supposed to be the ideal. Democracy is evolving in Nigeria. Having had a long break of military rule, and people now came back in 1999 for democratic system of government. Some people were elected in 1999 who left in 2003. Some people left, we came in 2003. We discovered that democracy was still evolving. Everybody wants to say, I am here, guiding your own territory. But what is it all about? Governance is all about 3 arms of government. They say there are 3 arms of government. It's not that there are 3 governments. 3 arms: the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. The legislature is supposed to serve as a watchdog on the executive. And so, if that is it, why do you have to fight? I was somewhere and somebody said, Senate, this president Senate is a rubber stamp. The House of Assembly, as it's presently constituted, is a rubber stamp. I said, what is the meaning of that? That the governor and the House is not fighting. That means the House is a rubber stamp? The answer is no. We are all still struggling under trying to shed the military way of doing things. Authority, command, decree, So it's not that our time, it was inexperience coming on board. Our governor that time, Governor Fayose, came in as a young man too. He not seriously experienced in governance. You see, people continue to compare this present governor with the past ones. They are incomparable. Yeah. Because somebody who had a training of about 11 years, he went through, he was chief of staff, he was OTSD, DG, he was commissioner for budget, he was SSG. He learned through the ropes. He moved gradually. You cannot compare that person with somebody who just came on board, either from the private sector, who doesn't even know what governance is all about. So governance is not all about the House of Assembly fighting the governor. You are distracting the people. You are not allowing the governor to work. Okay, well, all of us were sent home. What happened? We've sent the governor home. Obasanjo sent all of us packing too. Who lost? Ekiti. They brought a military administrator. Is that normal? What's happening in Rivers State now?
No, because that was what I asked. Would they say they are enjoying it better now in Rivers State?
How can they enjoy it better? How can one person be running a state? How can one person, a sole administrator? No, what was this? Even when you say the House of Rep is making laws for them and doing oversight function, will they be as effective as Rivers State House of Assembly that is in Port Harcourt, that is on ground, that knows what is happening? So it is the state that loses at the end of the day. But thank God, Mr. President is intervening in that situation, and peace will return to that place. The governor, Fubara, was inexperienced. The House of Assembly, probably some of them were coming in for the second time, or most of them were coming in for the first time. It was me. This is my territory. That is my territory. The guy who is the godfather too, another problem. So that is why that place was not peaceful. But I hope all of them would have learned their lessons. And so our case at that time is not the ideal. I want to say that with apology to my colleagues who might be watching this telecast. It's not the best. The best situation is for the 2 arms of government to collaborate, work together, let the House do their oversight functions, where they see lapses, resolve it, call the commissioner there by way of oversight function and let them know what they're doing and put right. Look at the budget, pass the budget, ensure that the budget is implemented. These are the works of the House of Assembly. It's not that we should go there and be fighting the governor or be fighting ourselves. If you look at that, our set too, we first of all removed our speaker. Another speaker came in. We used 3 speakers.
Inexperienced.
It was turbulent, and it's not the best. The best situation. We are not saying the House of Assembly should be docile. No, that is not why they are elected. But you are in the House of Assembly. You are supposed to work for the progress of your state, one,
Yeah.
of your constituency,
Yes.
2, and for your own personal progress.
Yeah, interesting, sir.
Thank you.
The program is our guest reaching you on AKTV channel 41, and our guest this afternoon remains our lovely friend, Honorable Kayode Babade. You heard from him how he started life, and those who happens to be his contemporaries while he was in school. And of course, he was able to inform us the reason why we must tread softly in life. Falling once doesn't show that you are a loser or you may not be able to rise again. But when you fall down there, you have every yardstick to rise and keep moving. He has just told us his experience as a majority leader in the Ekiti State House of Assembly in 2003, where they had to remove one speaker after the other, and just as he has said, 3 speakers they were able to use, but then due to inexperience. You heard from him how he started life even as a civil servant, and of course how he lectured at the Ondo State Polytechnic, and the Rufus Giwa Polytechnic, I beg your pardon. But then we'll ask another question. Let's look at your marital life. The home must have been peaceful, and that is why you were able to move around, able to play your role as a politician, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. I got married at the age of 30 and has children. 3 children, 2 boys, 1 girl.
How you met, madam?
2 medical doctors and 1 lawyer. That is what God has been able to bestow on my family. And so my first son is a medical doctor practicing medicine in the U.S. My second son, my second born, is a lawyer practicing in Lagos. He has his own chambers. And then the third is a girl, a woman now. She's a medical doctor, graduated from Abuad, and practicing medicine in the United Kingdom. And so I met incidentally, I lost my first wife in 2019. We met. She was a student at Maria Assumpta School of Midwifery that time. And so that's how we met. And that was a long time ago, 1986 or 85. And we got married in 1987. And then we lived peacefully together for 34 years before she went to rest in the Lord. It is the Lord that giveth and taketh. May his name be glorified. And but I remarried again. I remarried in 2023. And it has been a wonderful union. I'm okay.
Yes.
Okay. And my children are very okay with their stepmother.
We look at your religious life. Even as a politician, you were able to carry every aspect of life along, even in a career playing a role as a leader in that environment. How has it been?
Yeah. You said you wanted to look at my spiritual life?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Something would have been keeping you moving.
Yeah, by the grace of God, it has been God in my life. God that is keeping me moving, and I don't have any other source of power than the power of the Almighty God. By the grace of God, I'm a member of the Redeemed Christian Church of God. Not just a member, I'm a pastor and a zonal pastor. in the Redeemed Christian Church of God. I'm the zonal pastor in charge of Prince of Peace, zonal headquarters, Ikere Ekiti. I combine that with so many other things. I'm a businessman. Yeah, I'm into gas. I'm into commodities. And because as a politician, if you don't have a second address, that is when people tend to be you know, that people are desperate. If you are contesting an election, if it's not working out, but you know you have an office, you have another source of income. You know, it's not do or die. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, another day, another time, we come. And so I have always told my followers, my colleagues, and my friends, in this, our political thing, you must have a second. In fact, I don't even call it a second address. It's my first address. Politics is my second address. My first address is business. I'm a businessman. I've run various types of businesses. And currently I'm into gas. And I'm doing some other things. And so, by the grace of God, what I have been able to do, by the grace of God, is that I've allowed the scripture to guide my relationship with people. People want to ask occasionally, how can you be a pastor and be a politician? It's biblical. What King David was a prophet and the leader of Israel at his time. Samuel was a judge in Israel. He was the high priest and was the administrator, the judge. That is the language they used for their own head of state at that time. Deborah was a judge, a woman, and at the same time, a prophetess of God. And so, all you have to do is allow what you are teaching people to equally influence your life, your relationship with people. Then all is well. There is no, whatever you are doing, you are a broadcaster, you are this, you are whatever, allow the word of God, let it be a light unto your path, and then you will be okay. So there's nothing wrong in combining politics with religion. There's nothing wrong in that. We have seen in high places, the Pope is the head of the Vatican. The Vatican is a country on its own. He's the head of state. He's everything there. I mean, so even in this modern world. So there's nothing wrong with that. And politicians should have a second address. What we mean by second address is a fallback position. This present governor, after they left office in 2014, when Governor Fayose came back the second time, he returned to Ibadan and was doing farming. He still maintains his farm up till now. But I'm too sure, after his 8 years, by the grace of God, he will return to his farm. It's not that you can start moving from one office to the other, complaining, or for any chair, or for any clinical. If you have what you are doing, that will sustain you and your family, I don't think you need to die.
Honorable, we have to go because I've been called to close the program because of our time. It has been wonderful having you in the studio.
Thank you very much.
Honorable Kayode Babade, presently he is the chairman, Board of Technical Vocational Education in Ekiti State. Don't forget where he started from. His primary school in Ikere there, secondary school in Ikere, of course going to the Polytechnic or the Federal Polytechnic Akure, now in Ado Ekiti for his first degree before going to the University of Ibadan. You've heard from him at a time. He was the majority leader of the Ekiti State of Assembly, and of course he was able to serve as the commissioner for education in Ekiti State. Of course, at another time, he was asked to go and look and supervise the land ministry, that is the former commissioner for lands. Later, he became a board member of the governing council of the Federal College of Education, Technical Akoka, in Lagos during the first term of, during the period of former Governor Kade Fayemi. He was the chairman of Board for Technical Vocational Education. And of course, when Governor Bao came on board, he saw his loyalty and his experience and what he could do. And that was why he was returned, because I was thinking that would have been a better position if compared to where you are occupying. Maybe based on your experience, the governor had to move you back to Board of Technical.
What do you mean by a better position?
Maybe you need to serve.
It's a call to service. You see, let me just share 1 minute experience there.
Okay.
De Klerk was president of South Africa during the apartheid. And at a point when Mandela was to take over as president, de Klerk stepped down and became vice president. He said it is service. If you are called to serve, but because Board for Technical was under my purview when I was Commissioner for Education, it doesn't matter. It's all about service. And I want to appreciate God that I have been able to impact positively in the technical education subsector of the education industry in Ekiti State. And so it's a very good place when you impact the life of people. I think that is the best you can do for humanity, to change their life, to give them a future, to give them a hope. No. I think if I have the opportunity once again to serve, I will prefer Board for Technical.
Honorable, thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you very much.
We hope we'll have you some other time. Thanks for being part of the show from Ekiti Television. From all of us, we say we love you for being there. Let's do it together again next week, Friday. My name is Oluwaseun Akande, your anchor.